Good evening, nuclear enthusiasts. I am Leonidas. This is Nuclearis, and tonight we are going to do a ground up, complete startup from nothing. As though we're walking into a building where nothing's been installed, we don't have any equipment, we have to purchase all of our materials, our equipment, set it all up, and get it up and running. And then I'm going to do an in-depth explanation of what each part and component is, how they all work together, every switch dial, how they work, as far as I understand them, and we'll go from there. Please take note that I am running this video on version 2.2 with patch 175. Earlier versions won't be compatible and they'll look different, and there might be hotfixes later or other patch updates that might change things. So without further ado, we're going to get going. We're going to start our new game. We're going to do easy mode, as we always do for these videos. We are going to turn off skip initial help because we want to turn everything on. We're also going to uncheck plant ready to start operations. We're going to pretend as though we are not ready and we got to do it all. So without further ado, here we go. This will take a while. Last time I think I tried this, it was 2.5 hours, but the video didn't work. That was a few days ago. So here we are. Back to our control room, and we are ready to go. We will get through all of our help on the left, go through each of these items.
Danger alarm.
Oh, let's see what our danger alarm is. No control rods. Well, that makes sense. So the game is a little bit buggy. There are going to be random alarms, there's going to be random things that pop up. Low volume, of course, because it doesn't exist. We'll go through that in a minute, but sometimes the game's a little bit buggy. There are certain parameters that have to be hit. If they're not hit, then obviously we get these alarms, and that's what's happened here, and I'll explain those more in just a minute. But first, what we need to do is we press tab for our tab, and then we need to actually purchase everything for our loop. I guess where I should start is coming over and looking at the different consoles, but we're going to start on the left here. This is a diagram of the drain system panel. If you need to drain one of your components, this is where you would come to do that. The vents are on the left. Off the vent is for gas, steam in this case, things that are under pressure, where drains are for fluids, liquids, such as water, which we use as a coolant here. These are grayed out because we do not own them. They don't exist right now. We have to purchase and set them up. Our condenser is there and it's in the green, and our core is green because they are undamaged. And so we have those. If you look out here outside the control room, you see we have really no equipment. Right click, I believe these two are tanks that we reference, and that's our core, and we have nothing else. It is very bare, very empty. So when we look over at our loop panel and our vent panel, we can also see that almost nothing's installed. We'll need to do all of it ourselves. The game by default uses the C loop, or loop 3 sometimes it's called on certain components. So this is the one that we're going to work on first. That's our primary loop, is loop C. Loop B, or number 2, would be our secondary, and the A loop, or the number 1 loop, is our tertiary. So we're going to put everything that we purchase on the third loop. We do that first by going to our tablet. We're then going to go under Marketplace. And if we compare this, let's first go back to our panel. We need 1 pump, 2 pump, 3 pumps. We need a turbine, and this is supposed to represent the steam generator, which we already have, so we won't have to purchase that one. So we'll skip there. But opening back up our tablet, going to Marketplace, we're going to start with a generator set. We need a generator, and in this case, they do give us a good amount of starting money, 2.5 million, well, prestige points, which is the currency in the game. There are different classes of certain components. In this case, the emergency generators, you can pick a higher one. I'm going to go with the basic ones. We're going to do the same setup that you would get if you started the game normally, and by default, this is what we would have. So it's the class A, which is the lowest class. The farther down the alphabet you go, the higher class they are. So we're going to start with the class A generator set. This generator, electric generator, can be used to power our plant in an emergency situation. So we're going to go to our main connection. We will purchase it, and on we go. This, if you look here, this is actually the picture of our generator room, which we'll go up to shortly and take a look at. Exact same thing. So now we close there. Circulation pumps. If you remember, we needed 3 of these. Again, you can buy different upgrades. I'm going to go with the most basic. We need one for our circulation pump. Now remember, we're using the C loop. Okay, so we're going to put it in the C1 position, and it tells you you can use a class A, B, or C pump for this one. We're going to use obviously the class A that we're using. We're going to accept that, and we will purchase another one. So now instead of in the reactor core room, we're going to go to the condenser room. This is where we need our second pump, if you remember. We'll put that in the C loop. And this is also where we need our third one. Which is the condenser room and the pump that takes the water out to the cooling towers themselves. So there's our 3 pumps. We're only going to have to buy that third one once. It services all 3 loops, so that's kind of nice. So we'll close that out. Freight pumps. These are pumps that will take fluids or liquids, water in this case, from outside the game in the world and bring them into our tanks, and then from our tanks into our different components. So we're going to need several of these, and in this case, the classes, they do upgrade, but they also serve different purposes. So, for example, this one's an external, whereas this is for core cooling, and they can't, sometimes they're not interchangeable. So we're going to go with our class A. We need 2 in here, and it'll tell you down here again, class A or B. We're going to go with the more basic. Purchase one there. We'll get one more. And the yellow indicates that that is reserved, that we have purchased something and it will be installed there. And this is the picture of our control room. We were looking out the window. If you see these brackets on the wall and the green pipes, I believe this is actually might be from the old game. But we'll go take a look at that real quick so you can see what it looks like out the window. Here. And where that pump is going to be installed is back here. It'll be back along that wall. From our diagram, if we look at the one on the right, if we were going to purchase this, just something, is the B loop, and then on the left is our tertiary A loop or alpha loop. And that would go over there. You can see the brackets where it would hold those components up. So, getting back to it, let's continue purchasing freight pumps. We didn't get all the ones that we needed, so let's now check the condenser room. We do need a freight a freight pump here for our condenser liquid. So we'll throw one in there, purchase another. Check our turbine room. Don't need any in there. The exterior, we need 2. These are what bring water and coolant from the outside world into our tanks to be then transferred from our tanks into our different machinery components. But if you'll notice, these need class C. So we're going to go switch to class C. Purchase 2 of those, one here and another one here. Okay, and I believe that takes care of everything we need. They will not show up here until they've been installed. So if you remember, we purchased the first the first pump on our loop, the C1 pump, C2 pump, they both go here. If I am remembering correctly, this one takes primary coolant, and it goes from the reactor, pumps it through to the steam condenser, and then back to the reactor. Or the steam generator, the steam generator, which we did have to purchase, now that I remember correctly, and we have not done that. So let's get our... well, we haven't finished yet. We haven't gotten there, but we will. This represents our... Oh, I guess I could have looked at the label. This is our steam generator. So that's what that pump does. Steam them from the... I should do this so I don't make you sick. From the steam generator, steam then passes to our turbines. From our turbines, it then goes to our evaporator or condenser, where it gets turned back into water. And the pump, this pump here, then takes our condenser pump, takes it and sends it back through as water to be boiled off into steam to the generator, turns it from steam back to water, and then it pumps it back to finish the cycle. So that was the second one that we purchased. The third one we purchased, the D1 pump, takes the water from our condenser, our evaporator, evaporator is over here, from our condenser, our secondary coolant, and it takes it out, pumps it out to those cooling towers, which is the iconic giant upside down cones um, that everybody's familiar with the steam coming out to be pumped back in, and that's how we cool that loop. So this is our primary cooling loop, secondary cooling loop, and our steam loop for the generator turbine. This bypass is a valve that will allow steam to bypass the turbines and go straight back to the condenser if for whatever reason we didn't want our steam to hit the turbine. And there's different reasons for that, but that's how we read this. So let's get back to purchasing. Go to our marketplace, generating turbines. We'll just go next in line. We need one of those again in our C loop, and in this case we're calling it loop number 3. So again, C or Charlie and 3 are all interchangeable. If you were to purchase it here by mistake, there's no moving it. Once it's delivered and constructed, you have to purchase another one and wait another day. I'll talk about the times here in just a moment. So we'll purchase one there. Our steam generators, we just need one for now. There's only one type. It's going to go again in loop 3, so it'll be installed in the back. And what I want you to look at is, I won't actually purchase it, but when you select this, it tells you how long it takes to build or construct. So what happens here is we have to get all of our purchases in by 12 o'clock for the day that we're in. At 12 o'clock, orders shut off. Anything ordered after 12 o'clock will be delivered the next day. Things are quote-unquote packaged starting at noon. They're shipped out at 1500 hours, and they arrive at 1800 hours at your facility every day, anything you've purchased, and then construction starts. So 4 hours from 1800, they'll be ready at 2200 hours, which is 10 p.m. local time, game time. Next are resistor banks. These are essential, and we will talk about these. You again have 3 different classes. The nice thing is, similar to the D1 pump or the secondary coolant pump, you only need one, and it services every loop. So it looks like you can upgrade to have more than one, which later in the game you will. Right now we don't, but even having just one will service all 3 loops. Close that out. Last, our power transformers. Similar to the resistor bank, we only need one, and it will service the entire loop. It doesn't matter, all the loops. It doesn't matter if you install it in spot 1, 2, or 3. This is just, again, where the game puts it by default, and so that's where I selected it, was spot 1. So there we go. Now we have all of our equipment purchased, except that now there's a lot of materials that we're going to need. So we'll go to supplies and parts in our tablet. Fuel. Our generators, the developers are kind enough to send us pre-fueled generators when they're installed, so we don't need to buy any fuel to get them up and running, but it is nice to have on hand. The game starts you out with 4. We need to do it normally, so we'll buy 4. Same with oil. Each of our pumps need oil in order to run, and that oil can burn up over time. There's a catastrophe, like you might have an oil leak, or maybe damage where you'd have to replace this. Fortunately, they come pre-oiled. We don't need it right away, but we're going to order 4 extras. Internal engine rods. It says that we have 1 right now. It's the only piece of equipment that you start with in the game, and I'll show you where it is when way down in the controller or the control rod room, machine room. But we're going to buy an extra one to have on hand just in case this one breaks. If this breaks, we can't do anything, and depending on where we're at in the day, it could take up to 24 hours to get another one of these, because just like our equipment, our machinery, this is shipped out starting at 12, or excuse me, the cutoff is at 12, ships out at 1500 and arrives at 1800 of that day. And so if you're past 12, you got to wait over 24 hours to get it sent to you. So it's always good to have an extra one on hand. Core fuel, we have none. There is no Class A. Class A was with the last reactor prior to or during the 2.0 release reactor. This is a whole new reactor design in 2.2, and that used Class A fuel. So Class B is the low class. Class C exists. It's like racing fuel for your Honda Civic. That's your 1989 stock off the lot, used car lot Honda Civic. There's no point in it at this point in the game. So You'll need it later on in the game, but for now, our purposes and what the game starts you out with is core fuel, and we're actually going to get 2 of those. One to install into our reactor, and then an extra have on hand, and we should have the extra money for that. So we'll go ahead and buy 2 of those. Emergency batteries, we'll talk more about what these are, but we need 4 to start out with. It's not a terrible idea to have an extra one, except that the game doesn't make you rely on these very often. So we're just going to buy the basic number 4. AO assistant batteries, we need 1. We'll talk about AO and what he is, what he does. Hazard suit, safety first, got to pass those security audits. Repairing pliers, we'll also buy just 1. Welding machine, again, in each of these you can see that currently I have none. I can have up to 4 on hand. And if I wanted to order another one, I could. It says there's 1 in transit, and I could purchase another one. I won't now. But what this welder does, this repairs pipes and certain machinery that gets damaged in the game. These repairing pliers repair cables. We'll look at those as we walk throughout the plant. But they have, they can be used, I believe it's 5 times. They have 5 charges. And sometimes it takes more than 1 charge to fix a cable, an electric cable. So right now we'll just have 1 of those on hand. Our electrode box, we use these with our welding machine. We need at least 1, and I forget how many electrodes come in it. It's a lot, like 60 or 30 or I don't know. It's multiple. So we'll buy 1 of those. Replacement resistors. We're gonna get 6 of these. You install 4 into the resistor bank. It can hold 4 of these, and then it's good to have an extra 2 on hand in case these burn out, because these are a critical component. Again, we'll talk more about those later. This is the other component that we have on hand, fuse, and we have 60 of them. I don't know why we have so many, but we do. So we don't need to purchase any of those, and it wouldn't let us either. If we tried to, it'd say, no, you can't. It won't let me select a quantity because I'm already maxed out. So then we go to the control rods, another critical component. Each fuel block takes 8 fuel rods. I purchased 2, so we're going to purchase another set. We're going to go to 16, and there we go. So now we have everything on the way. We made our 12 o'clock cutoff. That's excellent. If we come over to our tablet, go to logistics and deliveries, it'll show that our shipment is pending. There's 55 items coming for a total of 1.635 million prestige points. If we want to know what it is, we can cancel the order if we wanted to, but we don't want to in this case, so we're going to accept it. And there we go. So now it's just a waiting game, which is somewhat unfortunate. We don't have any pumps. This is where you would control some of the freight pumps, and I believe we are missing all of them. This panel over here, nope, looks like we do have some installed. So we might actually install some of these, or start filling some of these tanks now. We have an external primary pump. This again takes water from outside our outside world into our external coolant reservoir tank, and from there we can pump it into our internal tanks for it to be then sent on to our different components. Chemicals, we are not using chemicals right now, so we're going to ignore this. So let's actually get this going. In order to fill our, well, getting ahead of ourselves, let's start by turning on the consoles. And we'll go through each one as we go around. So we talked about the drain panel, valve panel. We talked about the different valves that we turn on and off in our loops. These are already on for us, but they're not connected to anything. Think of them as being capped off. Next, we have the containment panel. This would show any breakdown if we had radiation, if there's the temperatures rising inside. It would demonstrate this. This will only light up if there's bad times happening. This is a readout of our energy that we're creating. We'll see more on that later. This is the fuel panel. We don't use it very often, other than loading and unloading. It has a nice little reminder tutorial of how to load fuel. We'll go through those steps when the time comes. We can have up to 9 fuel blocks in our reactor. We're not going to. We're going to have 1. We'll talk more about that later. But you can have up to 9, and you select which one you want by using this keypad. If we wanted to manipulate bank 6, we would select 6. If you want to do 1, do one. If you want to do all of them at once, you can. Operation mode right now, we're in shutdown. When we are getting ready to start, we'll go to nominal. If you needed maximum power, we would do that. This has a couple safety lockouts on it depending on the mode, and it also has different thresholds for when these alarms go off. So we won't worry about that too much right now. Thermal efficiency is going to be super low when we first start out in the game. It's going to be less than 2%. Thermal factor we don't pay attention to either. But in future updates, those will become more useful. Our pressurizer, which we do have now, we're going to throw on. This is a set it and forget it. It is a critical component. This is what keeps the pressure on inside of our cooling system over there. If you know anything about refrigeration or cooling, having air pockets or steam pockets inside your cooling pipes is a bad thing. So our pressurizer keeps the pressure up, on the water pressure up, so that we don't get those steam bubbles and that we maintain maximum efficiency on our cooling. We'll play with those a little more later because they are not ready to be used right now. This is our internal electric generating panel. We are currently on external power supply, which means we are drawing electricity from the city. They are supplying us with the energy that we need, which is handy. We could run off of our generators or even our batteries if we had them, which we don't. So trying to start these, the generator would do nothing. Right, there's no generator there. This is just a panel that shows the current state of some components that we use as we're generating power. Our weather, if you have the setting turned on, pressing escape, options. If you have weather consequences, this might give you a heads up of days coming where there might be a higher demand. And we're actually going to turn these off right now while we're doing this tutorial, this guide. Internal consumption, this shows how much electricity we are requiring, our building itself is using. So right now we're running on 120.6 kilowatts, or is what we would need to run. So that, moving on, our reactor core. This is the heart of everything that goes on. This is where our fuel is. Our control rods are just next door. We're watching this temperature. The pressurizer raises the vessel pressure in our reactor, our vessel. This is where we monitor our temperature. We're not using chemicals, so we will skip this for now. We have our alarm panels, and fortunately, for the most part, they pertain to whatever panel they're above, with the exception of this guy. If we get too hot here, our core temperature gets too high, it's going to show up over here under fuel, which kind of makes sense. Our fuel is too hot. If you get a high temperature here, it's actually referring to the control rods, which we will flip on that panel now. And this is kind of what we use to, well, control our fuel and regulate the heat. As we pull rods out, when rods are fully inserted, they're creating a cage around our fuel. They're in at 100%. It prevents any kind of reaction from taking place, or it at least absorbs all the. We won't get into the nuclear physics of it, but if you want it to heat up, you pull those rods out as though you were opening the cage. You can, again, we have 9 banks, just like we had over there. And each one of these, you'll see when we install them, will be green if they are in good condition. Each of these numbers will show how far they are inserted. Here we'll have a summary of the entire bank. We can select different banks, just like we selected a different fuel bank over there. And you can enter the rod height here, and it'll show what it is based on whatever control bank you have selected here. Scram, well, actually, let's start with the hold button. This hold button will, if you're moving your rods and for whatever reason need to stop, you hit this hold button and it'll freeze in place where it is. It'll stop trying to reach whatever you've put in here. Going back, I missed this one. Your core integrity is important. Obviously, if that drops, you could have a breach of containment, which is bad. Critical mass and core reactive, these they turn on later when we have fuel and we're heating up, and it reaches that a certain temperature of where the reaction is self-sustaining. These lights used to be yellow for low, green for normal reactive, and red, for excess reactivity. They're tied to this gauge here, and currently in this 0.175 update, this is either on or off. There were a lot of people who used this prior to this current reactor, in the 2.0 reactor. They use this a lot to gauge and run off of. It's essentially become ineffective, and it's either 0 or 1, and it goes in between. There's no fraction in between, which is why it'll either be green or it'll be off, and you'll have no lights, because that's kind of how it pertains here. There are exceptions, but generally you can ignore this and you can ignore these for now. Scram, this is actually a real world device or procedure, something that exists at normal, regular, real world nuclear reactors. And this is if something bad has happened and you need to shut down the reactivity of the core right now, you hit scram, and these control rods have something on the top that holds them, right? And it pushes them down to insert them, pulls them out to extract them. And if you hit scram, that mechanism releases, and it lets those rods free fall and encase around the fuel itself, shutting down any reactivity, and it'll stop it from heating up. So that's kind of an emergency use. You could use it if you just wanted to instantly go to 100 insertion rather than wait for the rods to move themselves, those little motors. Speaking of those rods moving, you can set the engine power. The old default under the old reactor was 125 watts, which equated to 100% control speed. Now you'll see the default is 75 watts for 25% control speed, and that works just fine. If you wanted to crank it up, you can. It just makes your control rods move in and out faster. It also wears out that component faster. But what makes them move is that, where'd it go? My engine, the control engine, right there. And we'll go look at that here in just a second. These red lights, if there's a danger alarm, they will light up at the panel. If everything goes haywire, they all light up. The whole room turns red. It's kind of spectacular. Coolant system, primary coolant system. This is another critical component. What this does, this is our loop here, our primary loop, cooling loop here. So that pump, the speed adjusts this pump here, and it puts coolant through the reactor core. As the water comes in, just like if you have something hot, a hot object, and you hold it and you want to cool it off, you hold it under the faucet in a sink. As that water runs over it, it's going to start to cool it off. It's going to take that heat away from it, conduct it away from it, and that's exactly what this coolant pump is doing. It's acting as that faucet, the water running over our hot fuel in this case. It helps to cool it down, but then it takes that heat and sends it on down the line to be turned into electricity. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But this is where we're going to need to set things up. And so this is what I want to do now before we move on, is get this going, because it takes a long time. You'll notice that our tanks are all empty. The moderation level you don't need to worry about, and the overall you don't need to worry about. These are indicators. They don't actually indicate. You can't. There's not a tank called the overall tank, and there's not a tank called the moderation level tank. They measure other factors and read it out to you. This one is important, your core inlet temperature, because this is basically how hot the water is. By the time the water, holding shift to run, by the time the water enters the core again, the inlet temperature is saying, how cool is this? Because obviously if you're trying to cool something off in your faucet running hot water over it, it's not going to cool it down very much. You want cold water. So this is going to measure that. If it gets too hot, it's going to stop the cooling, and this guy's just going to keep climbing in temperature, which is a bad thing. So this is one that we do monitor from time to time. We'll also monitor control rod temperature here. If it gets too hot, that's a problem, because they can melt and damage and become ineffective in stopping the reaction. The more you have your rods inserted, the more energy they're absorbing and the hotter they get. You can cool them down one of two ways, either by increasing the coolant running over the rods, which also runs over the fuel itself, or by extracting the rods out and away from the fuel. But again, that causes this to heat up more and causes kind of that chain reaction down the line. So in order to use these external pumps, or these pumps to fill up our tanks, we have to do a couple things first. So I'm coming back to our diagram over here on the wall. We need to fill our external coolant reservoir before we can fill anything internally. So we're going to go find our external coolant reservoir, see what level it's at, and then we're going to find the external primary pump to fill that up. So we'll come back here. External coolant reservoir, right here. It's huge. It's massive and takes a lot of, it can hold a lot of water in this case. So we're going to start that guy right now. You'll see it'll turn green. No, it won't. That's right, because we don't have it installed. Silly me. Even though this is light gray as though it's installed, we don't have it yet. It should be dark gray because it's not installed. Silly me. We have it on the way. If we go freight pumps, and it is one of this one, external reservoir. Yep. So should have remembered that. Anyway, so we can't run it right now, but that's how we would get started. So moving on, this is a readout of the electricity we're generating. Are we meeting our compliance? In the game, the goal is the city has a certain demand. Every day they need a certain amount of electricity. You can see that under service compliance. Right now it's showing all zeros because we're not requesting, or we're not making electricity from the city, and sending it to the city, excuse me. But otherwise these will raise. And usually you're kind of low in the middle of the night. It raises in the morning. Oh, status packing, right? Because we've hit the 12 o'clock hour. And it'll raise in the morning for a little bit as everybody's getting ready for work. And then around midday, it dies off. And then at nighttime, when everybody gets home, oh, nice music. You reach the middle of the day. This happens every day. You can turn it down, turn it off if you want. But in the evening, it spikes again, and then it settles off as we go on closer to midnight. So you're going to get these up and down peaks, and you have to match that. This is called a load following model, which is not, it doesn't work that way in real life. You'd be a base load plant, but again, none of this mimics real life realism. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. The physics do not follow the physics in real life. This does not follow a reactor in real life. There are certain components that are similar, but again, it's a game. Go with it. Don't try and take real world knowledge and apply it here, because you'll just get frustrated. So moving on down the line, well, actually I guess we should look at the panel. So what we also have here is this cool little surveillance system. That's what our core room looks like out the window. If you want to look inside the core, see what's going on, we can do that. Neat little camera. This is where our fuel would be sitting, and these are where our control rods would be sitting. If they were all the way down, obviously they would be fully inserted. As we get closer to zero, they will raise up. This is a little platform that raises up to allow the fuel and then lets it slide down. We'll see more of that later. You can also check on different parts of the room. We'll check the turbine room, see what it looks like. Right, there we go. Access barriers, this has to do with chemical plants, so we aren't going to use those. This guy we can turn off. Oh, and you can do a multi-camera, set up 4 at a time. We won't do it now. Acknowledge alarms when things start blinking and sirens going. If you want to silence them, we acknowledge them. This is the end of the chain. If that's where the chain starts, this is where it ends. This is our energy generation panel. This will give us a number of things that we're going to go over now. So you can install up to 3 generators in each loop. We are currently waiting for the generator in loop 3 to be installed, so we're going to be using this one. This top number is how much that generator is producing. How much electricity in either megawatts or kilowatts. It'll always be megawatts unless it's just barely starting up. It gets up to 1 megawatt very quickly. This is the RPMs. Our goal is to get this to 3060 and keep it there. It'll almost never waver. This is the voltage that we're putting out. And these are the hertz and the amps. This bus is what the city is asking us for. So this is how much demand we're trying to meet. This number will be the same that we get from our service compliance. It'll tell us how much power the city's asking from us in that moment. This will be the voltage. This never changes. It's always 22,000. And as long as our turbines aren't damaged, we're always putting out 22,001. Why the one? I don't know. but it's there. We don't get penalized for it. Doesn't necessarily matter. If your turbine is damaged and the voltage drop, having these two out of sync can cause a problem. We can change it here. I've never had to, nor do I know why we would ever need to, but you can change the voltage there. Hertz we don't mess with, and then amps it's just kind of automatically set. And I'll show you more about how you can use these to your advantage to see the trend on a smaller scale of whether your turbine is generating more or less over time. Moving on down the line to our resistor bank, like I said, this is a critical. You're going to see in the beginning that the city requires or requests very low levels of electricity. As you move up in levels, gain prestige points and gain levels, as you insert more loops, more fuels, the city's demand will go up, and you're going to have to meet that. Well, sometimes, especially when it's low, we overgenerate. They'll ask for 8, 9, 10 megawatts, and the lowest we can get stably is about, and remain stable, is about 15. So we're producing 15, they want 10. Where do the other 5 go? Our resistor banks. These also exist in real life. They are just heat sinks. The extra energy is automatically diverted away from them into these resistor banks, and then it is sucked away as heat. And if this is off or without this, we can damage our turbine. The city will show demand exceeded. If we do that enough times, we lose these licenses and our ability to generate power for the city, and it's all bad. So these are a critical component. You almost never want to operate with these off. Obviously, we don't have one installed right now. Otherwise, we'd have white lights. Gray means not installed. White means installed. Green means active, and we'll see those later. The diverted percentage you can always just leave on automatic mode. I don't know why you would ever change this to manual and adjust it. I don't recommend it because it's something you'd have to keep up with. I guess if you wanted to increase the difficulty and the number of balls that you're juggling, which is nuts, you can. Compensator, I used it more in the previous reactor, the 2.0, because your turbine sometimes will have little spikes and little drops. It doesn't remain flat very much. And so sometimes your electricity output your energy output will be higher or lower. The compensator tries to help the turbine torque to level it out, kind of absorb. I think it has a plus or minus 5% ability to keep that output level. It's not very critical, and I keep it off most of the time. Very rarely use it. I did skip over some of the gauges. Let's go over those. These lights, if it's on and running and in good condition, right, it'll be green, connected to the city and producing power. It'll be green. Repair required, right? That's bad. I think those are red, and for each loop. Again, the loop numbers are here. Sometimes it's letters, as we saw. Sometimes it's numbers. So this is the one we're going to be looking for. Turbine pressure shows how much steam pressure is coming into the turbine. Temperature, obviously the temperature of our turbine based on the steam and what it's producing. And then torque. If we get below a certain torque percentage, in some cases we'll trip the turbine, meaning that we're not producing enough for it to spin, and it'll spool down, and getting it restarted is darn near impossible. You basically have to wait for it to get to zero, stabilize everything, and then try and start over again. It's pretty hard. In fact, I've never been able to catch it as it's on its way down. Might be possible, haven't done it. While we're not connected to the city, we're not sending the electricity, we keep our circuit breaker open. So this will be red when it's open. It'll turn green when it's closed. And in sync means that our RPMs are matching what the city wants, and that's what we use the synchroscope for. More on that when we get there, but basically we have to be in phase with the rest of the grid. If you want to learn more about that, you can look it up. You can Google it, look it up on YouTube. Electricity phases, grid phases, and power plants, and how they have to kind of modulate themselves to match what everybody else is putting out. We open and close the circuit breaker here with this panel, and as we fine tune our RPMs to get in sync with the city, we use this here. And then we can do that for each turbine that we have installed. Right now we're just going to be doing 3, so we'll leave it on 3. Turbine trip, if you needed to shut it down in an emergency situation, we would hit this, which turns the bypass to 100. And this turbine bypass valve is, I believe, well, I guess it's not depicted anymore. But this is the bypass here. When it's closed, it's red. Anything partially open or while it's moving is yellow, and green is all the way open. So it's closed right now, so it's showing red. And what this does is any steam that's coming to our turbine, if for whatever reason we don't want it to hit the turbine blades and spin it, we can bypass it. This is a method if you're way overproducing and you just want to cut down a little bit, you can change this percentage from 0 to 100%. I leave it at 0%, excuse me, and I never touch it unless I'm going to spin down my turbine to shut it down, which I do before I do anything else. If I'm going to shut the loop down or the plant down for maintenance, which you have to do every 5 to 10 game days, ideally. So that's what this is for. Link just means if you have more than one loop installed and you don't want to have to spin or turn each knob. If you turn one knob, it'll change the demand or the input for each of them. On the right, it always shows what you have selected, and it'll show what its current percentage is matching. These are slow. There is lag, so if you go from 0 to 100, this will have to spool up, and these pumps are not always, or excuse me, these valves are not always super fast to catch up. Some are faster than others. Moving along, I think that's everything over there. When your turbine's installed, it'll turn green. It just reminds you what's installed. Red here means closed, and white means open. Or no, I believe green means open, red means closed, and white means kind of not installed. And there are alarms that will correlate to those as well. Steam generator. This is going to be the bane of your existence. This is much more complex and has been reworked for 2.2. A lot of people struggle with it. What you're trying to do, before all you wanted to do was you wanted to create heat, turn it into steam, and send it to the turbine, and that was it. And then you would adjust this to get this number to go up or to go down to match the output. One thing I forgot to mention is if you have more than one loop going and you want to know what your total output is, that's over here. These I don't use too much. It's the power generated and what your levels are. I don't rely on those very often, actually at all. I never look at them. Over here, I guess I didn't finish with the resistors. So our resistor bank has a maximum capacity. With what we've purchased, the basic resistor bank and the resistors themselves, the most we're going to get is 90 megawatts, which is way higher than what it was with the previous reactor. So as long as we keep what we're diverting, what we're sending to the resistors at 90 or less, we're good. Anything higher than that, we're going to burn them out fairly quickly, and then it goes all bad. So if we somehow accidentally burn these out, that's when I would trip this, because it's got to shut down right now. So this is how much we're outputting to the city. Ideally, this and this will always match. If you're diverting to the resistors, then it matches this for you. If you're underproducing, these will be zeros, and it'll show you how much you're under right here. So it this, if your resistors are on, will raise to match this, and it won't go any higher because you're diverting the rest of it here. And this will also match what that is. You're diverting the surplus from, you're kind of setting what it's at. And if I hold, if I hold right click and then W to zoom in, you can see automatic mode. Well, that's because we have it selected here, which is what you want. It makes life so much easier. We're currently disconnected from the power grid, which makes sense. Voltage is what they're requesting. Again, that's always 22,000. It'll just say 22 kilovolts, which makes sense. The transformer. You have a transformer because you need to, well, change the type of power, electricity that you're outputting. And under the old reactor system, nuclear plant, this was kind of arbitrary. You could go over it and it wouldn't matter. It would just wear a little bit more. I haven't tried it now because I haven't gotten that far, but under this new one, you always want this number to be higher than here. As your demand gets closer to this number, you need more transformers. Otherwise, it's going to cause problems. It'll cause more wear and tear and damage, and this, your resistor bank, and your pressurizer, your heaters specifically, get the most wear the quickest. It's almost always the transformer and the pressurizer are number one, and then this guy's number two or number three in terms of wear. So they require the most maintenance. So what I do is after a couple days, as soon as I have enough money saved up, I actually buy a second one of these and a second one of these so that I can kind of do a hot swap. I turn the second one on, shut the first one off so I can do preventative maintenance on it, and then flip back and forth between the two. Back to our steam generator. There's a lot going on here. This is where everything gets converted and becomes useful. So a lot revolves around this. We're taking water from here that's been heated. It's coming down the line into our steam generator or our evaporator. It's then heated. That primary coolant heat enters here and heats up water that's already inside and turns that water, boils it into steam, and that steam is what flows over here to our generators to turn the turbines. That after it turns the turbines, it then sent back to our condenser to be cooled off to turn it into water and comes back in again. This is what, with this new update, the 2.2, they want this to be in balance. We're going to see some numbers here when we get things installed and turned on, and the goal is to get all of these numbers for whatever loop it is to match. Please note that loop 2 and loop 1 are bugged. They are planning to be fixed, but right now, if you install multiple loops, they will not react the same as loop 3. That is not by design. It's an error, but they will be fixed. So just keep that in mind. Let's start over here. This is your pressure relief control valve. In your steam generator, your temperature, there's three things that can trip a generator. Well, more than that, but three things that can trip a generator, a turbine, and have it stop generating electricity. The first is temperature. If your temperature drops below 100, well, steam boils at 100. So if it drops below 100, it's no longer creating steam. Steam's no longer coming over here, and this will just drop off, and all of a sudden you're not making electricity anymore. The second is the pressure. If you think about it, the steam generator is an enclosed metal container with water in it. As you heat that up, kind of like a pressure cooker in your house, it creates steam. It turns water into steam, and as that steam increases, the pressure increases. Well, it has to put out enough pressure to overcome the mechanical resistance of your turbines. So you need a certain amount of pressure to send down the line to your turbines, electric turbines, to get them going. So if you drop below, it kind of depends on the other setup. We won't get into the thermodynamics of it, but pressure and temperature are related. So basically, just don't let it go below 35. It can trip below 35 to 30, depending on the other parameters. But this is also how it can trip. If your pressure is too low, it won't have enough pressure to send off to your turbine. Your coolant volume is how much water you have inside the steam generator. As the amount of steam increases, the water level will drop. If you run out of water, you're basically heating a metal container and just damaging it. You're also not producing any steam. So this is bad. This is a measure of whether you, I can right click. Right clicking on things gives you explanations. So this measures whether you're producing more water that can be turned into steam, meaning it's as it goes through the loop, it's coming back, and you are not in equilibrium. You're turning more steam into water, which is coming back, and your pressure is going to be dropping most likely. Or if you're generating more steam, it means you're boiling off more water than is coming back to refill it. It's out of equilibrium. You're going to raise pressure, things like that. But again, the ideal is to get this up and down and have it be at 50, which it is now, just because it's not running. These, again, are similar to these lights over here. They'll just show you that they're installed so you remember which loops you have. These numbers will be blacked out if it's not installed. So just keep that in mind. These are just a readout. Steam generated, well, it's just that. It explains the amount of steam that you're generating inside your evaporator or your steam generator. This number here, the steam outlet, this is how much of your steam that you are allowing out. So just because you are building pressure and making steam in the generator, well, you have to open the valve to allow that steam down the pipe to go to your steam generator. This correlates to this guy right here, C4. If I were to hit close C4 valve, which is right about here, it would turn that valve to 0. If I open it, it'll turn it to 100. So this over here is a way to get an increment of more than, or of numbers more than 0 and less than 100, which we're going to use a lot. And that is the MSCV, main steam control valve. So if I want to increase my steam outlet, I open up my valve more. But it only reaches a certain point, because again, this is a measure of the steam going out. Just because I have the valve at open all the way, well, I might not have as much steam going out. It could just be a trickle of steam. I don't know what to call that. A very slight amount. And so this will often be lower than this number. So we keep this fairly low. It also has to do with things like Boyle's Law and stuff like that. Coolant inlet. This is how much of our water we're allowing to come back into the system. This number directly relates to what's going on over here. If I set this to the single digit 5, we'll see 10 times that over here. Steam outlet will be 50. If I set it to 1, we'll see 10. And earlier on in the game, as you go above 6 or 7, probably more like 7, 8, 9, 10, you won't see any change here. Because again, we go back to that aperture is opening, but we just don't have that amount of steam to match it. Because we're small beans, small potatoes at that point. This is the pump speed for our loop here. That C2 pump is the one we were just looking at. So it's going to take the water coming from the condenser that's being turned from steam back into water, send it back to the steam generator to be turned into steam again. So the faster this goes, the cooler things are going to be. For the most part, the more water you're going to have coming back in and things like that. It does provide cooling because again, if this is off, let's say I turn this off. I'm not taking any steam from here. I'm not cooling it off, and I'm not turning it back into water to send back into you. Well, this temperature is going to rise. Well, if the temperature in my steam generator rises, then the temperature in my primary cooling is going to rise. So these are related. This secondary loop is what cools off this loop. Because this heat has to go somewhere. So this heat is then absorbed and passed down from step 1 to step 2. And then it goes from step 2 via the condenser into step 3. And that's where that's released into the atmosphere. The heat is generated here and ultimately lost over here. If I shut off one part of this, it's going to have a cascading effect of raising the temperature everywhere else. Shutting this off will raise the temperature here. Shutting this off will raise the temperature in both. So something to think about there. So this will also be kept low. These buttons correlate to a preset setting for all the pumps. They match. There's one down there, there's one here, and there's one at condenser. Slow is 25%, medium is 50%, and fast is 100%. You can individually turn on the pumps here. You can control their speed individually here, or kind of how we have a link button over here. Instead of a link button, it's just this guy. And whatever we set here will set as the ordered on the flow speed for each of the pumps that we have installed. I started talking about this and then stopped. If for whatever reason you need to release the pressure inside the steam generator, you open this and it vents all that out. So just keep that in mind, that anything you vent out, the steam will not go to the turbine, and it'll also not go down the line to the condenser to be turned back into water. So that's an important factor. This is probably only needed in an emergency situation, or to get a particular setup, a particular pressure, or if you needed to lower the level in the whole condenser system, that's where you'd do it. MSCV again relates to C4, or the number 4 valve over there, and is how much is allowed out. If you shut this off, steam can't go anywhere. It's just built up and will raise the temperature, will raise the pressure, and will raise problems if not utilized correctly. Last, we have our condenser. Our condenser level is what feeds the level of the coolant volume in our steam generator. So the water here comes from there. It'll draw from it. And it kind of creates its own equilibrium, more or less. More on that later. The pressure, we always want it 0. And this should be 0 and this should be 100 because as our vacuum is up high, it pulls the steam through the system and into the condenser to be turned from that steam back into water to be recirculated through the pump. Temperature matters. This is another way that you can trip your turbine. If this gets to 100, you will stop generating steam. The system, the game settings, doesn't want this above 89.9. That's kind of the limit. So I keep mine usually between 70 and 80. I also set my alarms to let me know before it gets there. More on that in a little bit when we go over alarms. But this is important to keep below 100. Make sure that's happening because that's a fourth condition that will cause your turbines to trip. The fifth condition is your bypass, which literally takes steam away from the turbines and puts it elsewhere. Actually out into the atmosphere, not elsewhere, out in the atmosphere. Once your vacuum's up, it stays up. You do have a pump to increase that. But if this is 100, this should not be any higher than 0. This steam admission valve allows the vacuum to drop, and I think will increase pressure here. I've never needed it, and you shouldn't either. But it is there. And I guess we should actually turn those on, which we neglected to. Condenser level turns that panel on. Or I'm sorry, this one here. And the steam generator obviously turns that one on. There's a light up. There we go. So these are not lit up because we don't have them installed. And the condenser is always installed. And it is in another room. I'll show you where that is as we go one around. So that's the control panel, or the control room. This is how everything works. If you wanted to shut these barriers, you can in case of a nuclear radiation leak. If you stand under that, it will kill you. So please don't stand under it. There are 3 of those? Maybe just 2. But if you're afraid of a meltdown, you can close that and hope and pray. Behind here, you have fuses and switches. Fuses can go bad, especially if you have catastrophe feeds on. Sometimes if you accidentally lose power and then flip it on real fast, you can blow a fuse. This is your circuit breaker. I recommend turning the circuit breaker on before you grab a high voltage fuse and rip it out. Electrocution is a thing. Fall damage is a thing. Drowning is a thing. All these things will kill you. You do have one over here. Right, you have a bunch back here, and they all relate to the screens and things like that. This guy, if you get radiation poisoning, we'll tell you, nope. Oh yeah, gives you an injection to stop the radiation and help save your life. It does cost every time you do it. I forget how much it is. It will not raise your health. It'll just stop the radiation that's coming in. And I've never actually done it before. That's a massive needle. Woof. You can use it as many times as you want. There you go. What this does right now, yellow means automatic. I don't know why, but it means automatic. So the door, as you walk up to it, will open. As you move away, it'll close. If you want it to open manually, you flip that switch to manual. It'll turn green once it closes. And now you'll have to hit the button. Green means don't go. It means it's now manual. You have to press the button to get it to open. So we'll switch that back to manual. And you can do it for closing too, where I guess you would have to click the button to close it. Good to leave those on automatic. Any of your hazmat suits, which will help protect you from radiation, will show up here. You do have a Geiger counter. By pressing G, you can bring it up and it will give you your current radiation readings in case you have a leak or a disaster and you want to know where it's safe and whatnot. If you get any trophies, they'll show up here. This is your elevator. There is no music, but it does ding. That's nice. Around the corner, stairs. So let's go up first. Oh, these little alarms, if it detects radiation, they will turn red, or maybe they flash red. And this light goes off, and you hear an alarm. They are spread throughout the plant. These green lights, I think, are emergency lights. If you lose electricity, you have one there also. So we're gonna take the elevator down. Actually, let's go up to the second floor. We're on the first floor right now, and we'll go to the second. Nice little ding. This is our storage room slash backup power room. If you remember that picture I showed you as we were purchasing our generators, it kind of showed a little bit higher version of this. All right. We have achievements that we're going to go through. So to find achievements, these are ways to earn extra money. Don't they'll have an amount behind it that'll show you how much you're going to earn for complete. You get them for meeting the demand every hour and every day by a certain percentage. And then they'll have other random ones that you can earn. Also, if there are certain ones you may not want, the one we don't want right now is emergency services. What that one means is you can't use resistors. Early in the game, you don't want to have this on, so it's better to turn that off. But it'll show you your goals, your objectives here. We just completed one. We're going to do these other ones shortly. But this is where our main generator is going to be installed, our backup generator, all of our fuel cans, all of our whatever will be placed here. We'll go over that later. Actually, we'll do it. No, we'll go over it later. And our fuses are nicely stacked here. Remember those 60 fuses? Here they are. If you order fuses later on, or as you start the game with the plant already ready, it doesn't give you this many fuses, I don't think. If you order more, it'll dump them on the floor. Or at least it did in the last reactor version. Just dumped them in a pile on the floor and didn't stack them nicely for you. All right, it's packed. So we talked about 15. It'll show packed, and then it's going to show shipped about 2 minutes later. Oh, less than that. Okay. This is where backup batteries would go. I don't think they charge in here. It just shows you what their charge level is. If for whatever reason your generators are running, you're out of fuel, you're whatever, you have batteries that will run coolant, the doors, certain things like that, and you can swap them out. They normally sit in here. The 4 that can be used will be in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They can charge while they're in here and have a charged level. As they die, you would have to take one out and swap it with one over there and hope that they are charged. They come charged, but that's what that charge level is showing you is, hey, what's the charge level of the batteries over here? This is AO. He calls himself Ow. He wants to kill you. And he does a lot of tasks that you can't, but he is constantly plotting your death. Never trust him. He won't actually kill you in the game, but he can. More on that later. These are what electrical conduits, wires look like throughout the game. They're color-coded. You can't follow them, and they do mean different things. This is your circuit breaker. If you wanted to cut off power to certain parts of the building, you could. Right now we're drawing from external energy. These allow energy to come from different backup systems. Gives you a little readout of electricity. If you wanted to, so for example, turn off the, let's go first floor. If we turn that off, I think our elevator stops working. But if we go down to the first floor now, oh yeah, green emergency lighting. Oh, did we do first floor or ground floor? No, I don't remember which one we flipped off. I still see lights. Yeah, maybe that's broken. It used to work. Anyway, let's go back. First floor, second floor. Notice to get to the third floor, you can't. This takes you up on top of the building. Not useful. Because the only thing you can do from on top of the building is climb down to the ground. Outside. Which one did I flip off? First floor. Interesting. I don't know why it didn't work. But normally that cuts it off. Maybe because it's day out. Anyway, if I were to cut it off on the second floor, it should make everything dark in here. It's making a liar out of me. Interesting. Okay. Well, it normally works. But if for whatever reason you ever needed to isolate power, you can do it there. More storage cabinets. When AO's battery comes in, I'll show you how to install it. This is, you can have extra batteries. If it hits the fan and you need lots of stuff done, AO does need to be charged. And if he dies out while he's doing stuff, you need him to keep going, you can grab a battery, go do a hot swap, and he'll keep going. This is the fuse, the switch for his charger. This is his charger, his home. If he gets wet, he cannot charge until he dries out. Right now, the drying mechanism does not work. You can take over AO and play him, and you can kill yourself with AO if you feel so inclined. And then your game ends because you killed yourself with AO. And it is the thing. But the drying mechanisms does not work, so don't take over AO and get him wet. Anyway, this is the second floor. A lot more is going to happen after 1800 when our shipment arrives. Here's outside. Shutters. I think those are storm shutters. I don't think those are, hey, we're about to have a meltdown and we're going to protect the outside world shutters. I'm not sure. We'll go up to the third floor that the stairs don't take us to, so we have to take the elevator. There's other ways to get there, but for the most part here. If we go to the right, there is... Oh, I'm sorry. If we go to the left, there's nothing. If we go to the right... this is the outside. Remember how I said that ladder goes up to on top of the roof? That's where it comes out. Right there. There's our cooling towers that we can't really see. They're not doing anything right now because we don't have anything going. Time to explore. And welcome to our generator room. As our turbines get installed, all right, top tier operator. As they get installed, they'll be sitting right here. These, again, for every valve, remember our C4 valves we were talking about that we can manipulate? Here it is. If for some reason it gets stuck, you could turn it. And I don't think it'll let me because it's not installed, but you would click on it, hold it. Yep, left, right. It's telling me that I have the hydraulic motor. So there's a bypass. In order to bypass the control room, I would do it here. It's showing open. Let's see if we can close it. Oh, well, there you go. Look at that. I can stop and go back. I'm using the mouse, sliding it left and right while holding left click. I can also use A or D. Either way. And then make sure to turn the bypass off. Otherwise, you won't be able to control it remotely from the control room. All of these tubes, these pipes, mean things. They're color-coded for a reason. In this update, they glow. Or maybe it's just my shader settings. But you can follow them, and they mean different things, and it is handy. These can explode and catch fire. The camera view for this room would be from up in that corner. You can see them spinning with this little window, and this white thing is turning. You can't see this one. This is loop number 3. That's 2 and that's 1. But as these are spinning, you'd see kind of an animation as the guts of it are spinning around. And they have little readouts that you can use here. What I'm doing here is right clicking and using W and S to zoom in and out. Oh, as it tells you at the bottom. Or you can zoom out with the mouse wheel. And these are just a readout. You can damage these. I think green lights up when it's in use or on. At the far end, we have storage room, stairs. If you couldn't use the elevator for whatever reason, this is how you would get in and out of this floor. Watch your head. Down, down, down we go. Down, down, down to another door. Note that there are electrical conduits back here. If there's damage somewhere in the plant and you need to inspect and check lines, don't forget that this little stairwell has some, because that might make the difference if you're looking for conduits to repair. But again, same thing, color-coded. You can follow where they go, and they go to different places, do different things. This is our condenser room. That is a tank, I believe. Doesn't tell me. This should be our condenser. Are you going to give me the little info on it? Probably not. Nope. But this is our condenser. It's already installed, which is why we could see it on the panel. This is a tank. And When our pumps and our generators and things get installed, they'll be up here. More manual valves. Our pump will be installed here. These are just little readouts. If you needed to add to our pumps, there'll be a big yellow one here. If you needed to add oil, you would come here and do it. I'll show you when they arrive. More manual valves over there. This is a long hallway that takes us to another area. The decontamination room. I'll show you more of that in a little bit, but because I want to go through this door down here. So we came out that right there, that stairwell. Now we're going this way. This is that, well, I guess second blast door that you can close off. And this is our turbine room. Our transformers will appear here, 1, 2, and 3. And our resistor banks will show up 1, 2, 3, and 4. These shelves will hold our resistor bank, our resistors that need to be installed into the banks. They'll be on these shelves. We'll come and grab them later. This is where we connect the transformers, right? So if I had 2 here, I need to do maintenance on 1. I'll turn on number 2, shut off number 1, and repair it. And then just leave it. When I need to flip-flop again, turn it on, and turn it off. You can take manual control of the resistor banks to turn them on and off. That's where you would do this here. Same with the transformers. Although I don't know why this manual control is here. I don't. Oh, I think the transformers have a button you can press. Oh no, I guess it's over here. So you would turn on this external breaker. I think in order to shut this on or off, you have to bypass from right here, the green one. This brown bypass is for all of the reactors. I'm sorry, all of the resistors. Each one also has its own bypass, so that if you wanted to change out the resistors in the resistor banks, and you don't want AO to flip it on and kill you while you do it, you can bypass, or bypass each one. You think I'm joking? Storage room. There's nothing in here of note right now, but what this leads us to is, ta-da, the reactor room. That was our little, all right. That was our control room right there. That's where, like, you can see the little panels and things. That's where we were looking down. Again, fall damage. There is water down there, even though it's empty-ish. You can take the ladder down, and in theory, you can climb up on top of here. There's still water, so don't. These pipes are functional. If they get broken, you can take the welder and weld them and fix them. Unless it's like down here, then you need AO to do that for you. These are each of the hatches where you would load fuel, and each of these is where a control rod would be. These are different containers where extra control rods will sit before they're installed. We have a fuel room on the other side of this wall. You get to it by climbing up that ladder. In the old game, or the old reactor, it looked extremely different. This was much smaller. This room was bigger, well, probably because that was smaller. And we had a crane, and that crane you could actually jump in and use, but it would come across, it would go through this wall, it would come down, grab the fuel, pick it up, and it would bring it and drop it down. You could see it. Now it's an automated system you do through your tablet. You set operational task, install fuel, select the fuel. We don't have any right now. Pick which bank you want, hit confirm, and it does its thing. Same with the control rods, and it's just instant. It just goes poof. You have these tanks in here. Like I said, here's your primary coolant tank. You have some other valves, right? If you needed to purge this for whatever reason. I think that has to do with chemicals that we don't have turned on right now. This is your pressurizer relief tank with those manual valves. We're going to have our steam generator and pump installed here. This is important to note. So up here, you have your M1 and M2 valves. I'm sorry, M2 and M3. We're going to turn those on now, just so we don't have to come back later. But keep that in mind. So we'll go down. Don't use shift on this one, because once you hit the bottom, if you're not careful and you're going fast, you will run backward and go right over the edge and die. No joke. So we're missing the OSHA compliant guardrail here. Keep that in mind. Back here is where you would find the chemical room if we had it installed. We don't. And this would give access to the other loops if you wanted to get to them. There's more pumps back behind there once they're installed. Now we're in the decontamination. Remember I said there was that long hallway? This is it from the other end. That door actually does go outside. It's a one-way door. If you open it and let it close behind you, you can't get back in. You'd have to run all the way around to the front door. That'll show you in a minute. Decontamination module. If you're on your suit and it's radiated, you can come in here. It will clean it off. Also, if you have radiation poisoning, it will clean it off just like those little injections on the wall. These guys. I don't know if that was meant to do that, but it is. Again, hazmat suits would be in here. We have to hit this button to open it. If you are a sponsor, I think through Patreon, and you can get your name on here as a donor. There's our elevator. There's our stairs. We're on the ground level. And this would take us outside. It's the front door. This used to be paved. And we have a little train down here you can actually take. If you had to escape because of a meltdown, you would hit this and it would end the game for you as though like it's shooting you off to safety. It'll also take you down to the chemical tanks. But outside is functional. Remember those green tubes we saw inside, those pipes? Well, here they are coming through the wall. These are actual tanks that we're going to need to fill. And they can draw from them, and there's several around the building. So we won't do that too much of that right now. Here's our giant cooling towers. They will produce steam. It's pretty neat. And this is how they work in the real world. Without going into too much detail, there's pipes that run under here. They heat up this water, and this water gets turned into steam that goes up. And this design is on purpose. It sucks air in and naturally, and then pulls it up through to help cool off all of this. But these blue pipes, again, the ones that we saw inside that were kind of glowing, that blue or violet, whatever you call this color, they actually come out here. So all these are functional. There's our stairwell, right? That's, again, where our ladder would come out, is up there. So we'll head back inside. I do encourage you at some point when you have a stable reactor to come out and take a look. Oh, come on now. Okay, so we're back inside. Again, decontamination room here. Elevator here. And this first floor, if you played the 2.0 reactor, this is different. This was on this wall. That led to the reactor room. This did lead to the decontamination room. But anyway, a little bit different layout. So we'll go back to the first. Nice pleasant ding. And we're back to our controller. So here we go. The reason now if you remember, we turned on those M2 and M3 valves. Here's why. After we fill this up, or get water moving to it, we're going to need to fill up these tanks, and that's the only place to do those. Those are manual valves. That's what M stands for. This one pertains to the chemical add-on, and it's located inside the chemical room, which we don't have turned on right now, so we can't see it. More on how this will react later. Typically, the game wants you just to have one open at a time, but we're doing two to help speed things along. But that's what that does. This empty area would be filled with all your chemical controls if we had it turned on. So now it's a waiting game. Oh, you can also see that we opened the valve, so they're showing green right here. We're going to speed this up till we hit 18 hours. To speed up, you can hit T for time and select one, or just put 1, 2, and 3 on your keyboard. I'm going to advance it even further here in just a second. Once we get closer to the 17 hour, I'll show you something else. So we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. You can grunt when you jump. Very useful. Okay, close enough. So we're going to hit 1. Go back to normal speed. We're going to hit T. And I'm going to click this guy, and it will allow me to jump hours. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If you do this and your pumps are running, they will not shut themselves off. You can burn them out. You can blow up your power plant. Actually, if your core is running, it won't let you do this. This is what you would use during maintenance or other things right now because we're waiting to the 18 hour for everything to be delivered. We're going to do 1 hour, and we'll get this neat little animation. It counts down, and magically now, well, that advanced us farther than we wanted. It actually went 1.5 hours. Interesting. So there you go. I did not realize it wasn't very accurate. But coming back to the control panel, I think I did talk about those numbers. Never mind. So it's showing us everything that was delivered. So we're going to go look at that. Isn't that nice? That's nice. Second floor, storage room. And now we have stuff. Our generator is being constructed, hence the construction box. And all of and we have things that have been delivered. We'll have an AO batteries on the wall. But we should have our backup batteries installed. They come pre-charged. Hey, thanks for that. Appreciate it. If they weren't, these would be charging. It would say charging. If it's active, right, we're using them, it would say active, show the charge level. But here's our fuel cans, oil cans, welder. Oh, I didn't show you the core. What am I thinking? That's what I should have been doing. We'll go down and look at that now. Oil cans. This is our AO battery. Okay, it shows you about your inventory. I for inventory, which is your backpack. Gives you a little information here. You have basically 4 banks, and you can store up to 4 things in each bank. Items will stack. So if you grab 10 fuses, they'll all stack here. If you want to take something, you just click on it. If you want to put it back, you open it up and you just, oh, I clicked on it and it went back in. Normally it would already be open with other things. You can just click on it and it'll go back in. We'll put it in our hands. If you right click, I don't want to do it with this because I don't want to lose it, because sometimes when you throw stuff down it gets lost. If you right click, it will toss it on the ground. So I'll show you how to put a battery in AO, or Al as he calls himself. Click on the back, click here, and he is alive.
My name is Al, and I am the operations assistant for the reactor. The plant is ready to go into operation. If you need my help, please let me know.
He's terrifying. See what I mean? Creepy little guy. We're going to turn him off. I can also turn it back on. Take remote control. I can ask him to do certain things. These are items in the plant or in the control room. I can select this. It'll tell me that every time he does this, it costs me 5 prestige points. I would have to buy it, that upgrade, to do it, to give him the ability. We're not going to do it now. There was an extra one. I believe it was control rods or condenser or something, and they took it away. Not sure if it's going to come back. You can tell him to do certain things, such as just follow you and follow you around. Stop following me. Scan your surroundings. He will do a preventative maintenance scan, which is very useful. If something breaks, something needs to be fixed. I do one once a day. He'll tell you how much wear there is, how much, or the integrity level of things that we'll talk about. Whatever room it's in, you hit scan your surroundings. He'll check all pipes. I think it tells you if you click on it. Yeah, nearest devices, including equipment and machinery, cables and pipes. It just doesn't work in the control room. You can send him to a particular area. This is broken right now. He will not do it. Same with analyze device. You can pick an actual specific device or piece of machinery and he'll go do it. He'll go scan it and just scan that one. You can also tell him to cancel the current command. Those are a few things. Start maintenance tasks. If we had things that need to be fixed, they would show up here. You can click on the little check mark. It'll tell you how long it'll take to do it. It also charges you money or prestige points to complete it. And then you could select which ones, hit accept down here, and he would go perform those. Give you a little readout of how long it's taking. Setup. You can have him execute the emergency stop if it's required. So if he detects or the system detects, hey, we need an emergency stop, he will just run into the control room and start taking over and do stuff on his own. Overpower mode, I don't think exists anymore. That might have to do with if you are remoting into him. If whenever he's done charging, you want him to turn on and do stuff, you can click that. This, he will patrol, when he's not doing anything, he will just patrol the inside of the building and scan everything. And it freaks you out because you hear things. He'll just show up behind you and it's creepy. And so just note that it can get a little weird. But he will not charge himself if you tell him to do this. Send a charger, right? That's brings him wherever he is. He'll come back. He'll charge his battery. Start the preventative maintenance analysis. Obviously, has him do it. It takes quite a while in game time, and you can tell him to stop to go do something else. So that is AO, and he is a creepy dude, mostly because he wants to kill you. All right, it finished. So, if you'll notice, we have a fuel gauge and a fuel door. If I needed to refuel this, and the oil works the same way, I would pick up my fuel can. It gets added to my backpack. I take it here. I select it, put it in my hands. I then walk over and I would click right here. And it would dump it in. As fuel goes from the can into the generator, it fades from red to white. Once it's white and all empty, I could come over here, right click, toss it in the bin, and it would discard it. If you turn on audits, if you do normal mode instead of easy, it will, if you have empty cans laying around, they will ding you for it. It's a safety hazard. There are times where you'll have a partial can, and so if I want to put this again back in my inventory, I just click it, it'll show up. If I want to put it back on the shelf, I can walk up and just set it on the shelf. There it goes. So keep that in mind. Anything else to show in here? Nope. Let's go down before everything else finishes and we get ready to go. Our pumps, I believe, take the longest to install. I think they take 4 hours. And again, everything arrived at 1800, so things started building at 1800. Oh, there's our hazmat suit right there. If you click on it, it'll put it on. Looks a little different, right? Like you're looking through the microwave. You walk a little slower, you run a little slower, right? And I can go to any of these and click it to take it off, and it will just reappear. So if we look over here, things are starting to get installed, right? Our turbine is, I don't actually think it's there yet. None of our pumps are. This change in color has to do with my shaders. It doesn't actually mean anything, so that's just something on my end. I don't think this has been installed yet, and the way I can check is marketplace, freight pump, sure. Yep, yellow means reserved, so those are still being constructed. Still constructed. Oh, our generator is there. It's blue. We'll go up and look at that in just a second, and these are still being done. But if I wanted to put this, say, here, okay. Or there isn't really a good way to see how long they. Yeah, it doesn't tell you how much construction time it takes, but I believe these are 4 hours, all of them. Oh, 2 hours. So it might be done shortly. And then we'll get everything going. So we'll go and do this fast, but you can see things being built in here. They're not done yet. So let's run down to our reactor room. Elevator, I'm sprinting, I'm holding shift. Gotta hit our button because it's green, and I'm actually gonna change that. I like it to be automatic. I would fail the audit for it, I think, or at least get dinged. If you fail your audit, you can lose licenses. If you lose enough licenses, you can't make power. Hey, look, there's our control rods over there. Our fuel would be in that other room. So now we're going to go look at our reactor while we can. So from our storage room, we go down the stairs. Notice there are kills. We wouldn't be able to reach up there, but AO can. So now we're going underground. Okay, we come to the upper core area. We hit the giant button. Normally this would be filled with water, and you'd hit this and it'd say, I can't open because there's water behind it. Right now the water is gone. As you can see, we're below the line, right? Because water goes up to these, like in the bathtub, you have these little safety drains. It's supposed to keep the level, so it'll go up to there and stop. So we would be underwater right now. There's this other set of doors because this is the outer core vessel. It fills up with water. This is the inner core vessel. That also fills up with water. So you could have this full and where we're standing empty. Right now it's not, so we will come over here and we'll hit open and try and hurry and see the animation. Oh, it was a little fast. And it'll give you this little message. You will see this throughout all over. We'll see it up in our control room and the other readouts. F for flashlight, right? If we wanted to, scared of the dark. These fuel would be up here, and this is where it would get loaded and sit before being sent down below. What we would do up here, I don't know, but this would normally be under or filled with water. Just taking a look at it for fun. These bridges don't retract; they just get covered with water. So we'll see if we can see the animation real fast. The other one's a little slower. Not really. We'll hit this guy and keep going. Okay. So that's the upper core maintenance room. Now we'll go to the lower core maintenance room. This is where when the fuel is inserted and the control rods are doing their thing, this is where you would see it. Red and green, obviously, whether we can access it or not. Remember, we already pushed those buttons and got the messages. You can see where we are in relation. We're down a little bit further. That was the platform we were just on. So we'll open this one. This one's a little slower. And yes, if you drain out the water and have fuel installed, you will be looking at control rods and fuel sitting right here. And just walk around inside of an active reactor. It's playing the sound that there's water. I think just because the floor is wet. But this is number one, right? We saw the ones, the fuel banks around. This little platform raises up, and then it's inside that tube that we were in the upper area. That's where, excuse me, where the fuel gets loaded in, and then when you load it, it lowers it into this room, and then this is where the magic happens. So there's the water level, and you can see that there is a floor you can walk around on. If you need to climb up there, I haven't done it yet, but you can try it. We'll close it and watch the neat little animation, because I think it's neat. Okay, now we will close the door. Don't get pinched. I haven't tried it, but don't do it. And now we'll go down to the control rod room. Engine rod room, sorry. Rod engine room. This panel doesn't do anything. There are certain panels where you don't get the little button, right, that says open. It'll just stay this little clicker, like the fuse boxes are one of those. But you click that. This you can do at any time. This does not fill with water. So even if the core is active, at least I think you can, it'll let you come in here. Each of these is the motor to run the bank of control rods for each bank. When you look at them, they do have a fuse. Right, that's that fuse that can be pulled out. And again, it didn't give me the little open. I just had to click on it to know that it's there. If I click on that guy, it'll put it in my hand. I can put it in my backpack. I don't know why I turned my Geiger counter on. Or I can toss it on the ground. And then this guy's the circuit breaker, right? In case you don't want to get electrocuted, you can shut that off first, right? Pull out your fuse, put it back, turn it back on. If you needed to cycle something on and off, that's where you would do it. This is for bank number 2. This is for bank number 3, and they go up a number. Bank number 1 is past 7, so we go 2, 9, 8, 7, and here's 1. This is the main guy. Okay, the one that we'll be using. The control rod motor I talked about, there's one of them. They're currently installed. It's the only thing that comes installed already, and it's right here. If this gets fried, it'll look all burnt out. You just take it, right? You would take the new one from your backpack, insert it, close the door, bingo, bongo, bingo, ready to go. And there you go. I guess you could close the door from the inside. That'd be interesting. Huh. Never tried it. Add it to the list. Okay, there we go. So let's head up because I think things are about to finish and we need to start filling our fuel, or excuse me, our water tanks. Coolant tanks, that's the word I was looking for. Run, run, run. One more set. Through the reactor room, mine the giant hole in the floor. See, and that's where we were. Let me go around to the side and you can see those little platforms. If I can do it without falling in. Yep, there's the upper one, there's the lower one down there. Whoa, that was dangerous. Saving. You can save a couple of different ways. One is to do a quick save, which I'll do now. Sure, we'll just go high. Okay. Well, let me... Oh, it did. How about that? And you can do a quick load if you wanted to load whatever your last one was. Or, and that's the escape menu tab. You can do a load and save here. So if you ever want to try something, hey, let's see how that works. Oh, that didn't work out well, right? Then you can quick load and undo what you've done. So here, we'll go up to our control room because it's about to get busy. I'm hoping that it'll tell us all the things that have finished constructing, so we're going to read through the list when it gives it to us in 1 game minute. So we'll come over here. Our valves are already open, so we'll just come over here to our pump panel. Let's see what finishes. There we go. Pump finish. All right. So all of our pumps. Oh, I'm sorry. Those pumps. Oh. We'll go do that in a minute. Freight pump. That's what we were looking for. Shows it's installed because it's yellow, or it's white now. Right. These are white. This one's already connected because the switch was already on, so it's green. We can see here now that that one's ready to go. It gives us a little information on it. And tells you what class it is, what loop it's on. This guy's still being constructed. Will it tell us? Hey, it will. There's our steam generator. Okay, so let's start doing stuff because this takes forever. All right, so we have our pumps installed. We need to start getting water in the external coolant reservoir. So we're going to do that now. Oh, I guess I should show you. Though, if you need to remember which one it is, external primary pump will fill the external reservoir. External primary pump, we come over here, external primary pump, we give it a click, it gives us a green light, and eventually this is going to start rising. The distance of these pipes matters. So if you're sending something through here, the game actually measures how long it takes to go through this, so you won't see your gauges move until it reaches the destination. Some of these pipes are really long. As we've seen, they go up through around the building, they go up into other floors. So some of these are a lot bigger than what you would normally think. But in theory, this should start rising soon. And there we are. So we're filling with thousands and thousands of liters, about 100 liters every click. What is that, every second, every minute? I guess maybe every 20 seconds of game time. So that's rising. What this is going to then do is put water in here. Oh, green shows it's on. The water from here is then going to need to fill these two guys. As soon as we click this pump on, that will stop filling. Whatever level it's at is going to freeze. We're going to do that now. So we will fill the primary coolant tank and the core coolant tank. And we're going to do that with our internal primary pump. If you flip this on and these are red, you will burn out this motor. You will cause damage to it. So we're going to come over here and we're going to flip on our internal primary pump. You'll hear it spin up. Maybe. Now, some of these you can hear running, depending on where they are. So now it shows green. We have water flowing through these guys. And if we come over to our, again, primary coolant tank and our core coolant tank, we'll see those levels rising. Once the water gets there, primary coolant tank and core coolant tank. So those are rising. Now one starts. And this guy has frozen. Because for all the water that this is pumping into here, we're taking out an equal amount and splitting it between these two. And now we got to wait. Because what happens is going back to our diagram, from here we flip on other pumps to fill these things. The core, the part where we just were way down here, walking through those giant doors inside, that's got to be full of water, almost all the way full. More on that in a second. But we click on our feed water pump to go to the core, fill up the core. The external core, the giant swimming pool thing, around it is this one. So primary coolant tank fills the core and the pressurizer, but we don't have to do that manually. It does it on its own. The core coolant tank fills the external core. If you ever forget and get confused, come use this. It's such a helpful diagram. It also gives you some tips, again, to remind you what needs to be open and closed for each thing. It'll tell you to only open one at a time, kind of. To load the core pool coolant tank, right? Core tank. 1 and 3 must be closed and 2 must be open, right? 1 and 3 closed, that makes sense, right? Because we want this to follow this path, open 2 and send it in here. But we're splitting it between the two, and that's okay. Anyway. Directions are there. You have additional directions that are really little right here. If you have trouble reading them, again, you can right click and use W to zoom in, or your mouse button to zoom in and out also. Okay, so these are rising. This, we're going to let go once it's filled everything up. We're going to put this at about we're going to put it at like 400. It's going to run for a long time. We're going to have again, this is the tank in the ground outside. We're going to be up and running and sending power, and this guy's still going to be filling up. He takes a while. This guy, we're going to let fill up quite a ways, as we are this one. Our core vessel, this is the inside. This is where the fuel rods are and the actual fuel are. This cannot be at 2500. We do not want to max it out. Our goal is to get it about 2512. Why that number? I don't know, but that's what I aim for. If you overfill it, you can reduce it, and we'll show you how to do that with the RCV. But the reason is because we need a little bit of space for our pressurizer. If we max this out, the pressurizer dies, and it's all sorts of bad. So just keep that in mind, that this we don't want to fill all the way. This is the only one. Everything else, no problemo. The outer vessel, you'll flip the pump on, it'll go to 100. This is one we don't have to purchase. It was already there. If I'd flipped it on, it would be doing its thing, and we would hear it. But you don't have to purchase it. You don't have to service it. It doesn't die, which is kind of nice, because you can put this to 100 and leave it on accident. You'll hear it kind of click and grind, but it won't damage it. Same with removing it. If we needed to remove the water, because in order to load fuel in or out, we need water gone, so we can open the hatches. It won't let us do it without it, which we're going to do here momentarily before we start filling it. These ones can all be damaged. These are ones we had to purchase. They can be damaged if you run them dry, overrun them, underrun them. I guess you can't underrun them. Anyway, so those are important. The core pool coolant tank. Again, this is what goes to the outer core, and this guy goes to the inner core. So I don't know why they didn't put this one closer to this switch. For whatever reason. This doesn't matter how full it gets. We're going to let it go. We're going to fill up our outer core to 100%, and this guy can just sit. I leave him right here on the edge between the green and the yellow, because as we drain it, it's going to fill this up later on when we need to do maintenance. If it goes above 80, because it's outside, it doesn't matter. There's a runoff. You're just going to run, nuclear reactor water into the ocean and streams and rivers and lakes, and that's totally fine. So we'll start with loading our fuel. Okay, right now we have nothing. It's blank. Oh yeah, here's that readout when we were opening and closing the doors. So right now we got nothing. Okay, in order to load fuel, we actually have to switch to a nominal mode.
New operating mode established. Nominal mode.
Why the word nominal, I'm not exactly sure, but there it is. So what we will do now is we need to load our fuel and take it from, if we look here, we'll see our fuel room right here, number 4. Set. There it is. We're going to use just one of those. So we're going to take it and we're going to load it into bay number 1. So here we have 1 selected, outstanding. I guess we did this on our tablet. Operational tasks. We're going to install. Oh, we got to open the hatch first. I'm sorry. So we unload fuel, which is the same as isolate the bay. And what that'll do is if I switch, let me just turn on multi-view. And if I want, so there's the fuel bay. Let's put on internal core. Inside we'll go 6. What? I don't know why it's not letting me. I don't know how to use this thing. Oh, I guess I have to do numbers first. 2. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. Wasting time. Okay, so we're going to open the hatch. But I do kind of want to show you this. So you can see the hatches right there. Right there. Get the scratch out of the way. And when I open it, oh no, I remember what I wanted to show you. Okay, you're going to see this platform rise. It'll be in the middle. But we raise the platform. I don't think there's an animation with it, but we isolate the bay, unload fuel, which just raises up the platform. Hey, cool, there it is, the animation. Sweet. You can see it on the internal camera. Right there. See the piston that's up there now? You can't see it because it's inside. But now we're going to open the hatch. There should be another animation with that. Yeah. Come out here and look. Sure enough, she's open. See the door open right here? And you can't really see it from here. Kind of. Let's switch to the core room view. Okay, you can see the open hatch and it's black. You'll see the top of the fuel here in a second. So now we load it. Okay, tab, operational tasks, install fuel. Let's take this guy, put him right there. Why is my... You can zoom in on your tablet and it'll follow your mouse. I find that annoying, so just I zoom out. Put it there, confirm. Poof. There it was. I don't know if you saw it, but there it went. It's there. It's now in there. We're going to close the hatch. There's the animation of it closing. And now I'm going to go back to shutdown mode because I don't want to accidentally insert that. I have no control rods. I have no fuel, or excuse me, no water to cool it. To me, that's a bad news bears. But again, we had to do that now because we can't open and close the hatch with we need water in it. So we loaded that part. Now let's start loading our core pool. This is a loud pump. You'll hear it. Don't make a liar out of me. Is it not? Oh, it is. You can hear it. If I speed it up, you can hear it more. You can hear it raising. Okay. So there we go. And as this starts to fill, this drops because it's not able to take water from here into here and from here to here fast enough. So this actually drops. And that's okay. We're gonna let that run. Now we need to start filling our core vessel. But oh, quick reminder: if this gets to 0, oh no, it won't damage that one. If this one gets to 0, we will damage our pump that we're going to use here in a second, our feed water pump. So coming back here, if we need to fill the core, again, we use our feed water pump for this one. It's going to come from the primary coolant tank. Primary coolant tank is going to feed into the core vessel. We're going to flip that with our feed water pump. We will do that now. So this will start dropping because same thing, we cannot, the pump can't keep up fast enough to fill this at the same rate this is filling this one. This one takes a while to get going. So the pressurizer fills first. That'll go to 60 and stop. Does it automatically, and then this guy will start filling up. Like magic. So keep your eye out, especially on this guy. I don't want to run that one dry either, but there we go. The other thing we need to add water to is our condenser. We need this level up. And I believe we do have our condenser pump installed, so we're going to hit it. This one will also take a long time to get going. That's a long pipe, let me tell you. So we'll keep an eye on that one. This is another one we can damage. Any of these can be damaged by overrunning them or running them dry. Even though it's showing a level of 0, it's not dry because it is pumping water. It's just, no, now it's gone. It's just not through the pipe all the way yet. You can actually see the animation. If I were to speed this up, because it's so big, oh, there was the little jump. I don't know if you saw it. See, it's going. Little by little. So we are good there, and we need these to all fill up. So as each of these are filling, notice that our overall value is rising, and our moderation level will continue to rise. But we need to install control rods, and I think before the water gets dry. So let's do that. We want it in bank 1. We want to install in every spot. We're gonna take it out of this container, confirm, and now we should see a bunch of rods sticking out. Ta-da! There they are, right? They went from over here to over here, and they're at 0. They are fully removed. So they are installed. When you install the new ones, they will not show up here until you cycle this off and back on. Ta-da! Whoops, there they are, right there. Oh, right there. They're all at 0 height, 0 height, 0 height. Again, by default, 70 watts, 25%. That's totally fine. We have bank 1 selected. And we are going to set this at 100. We will hear it clicking. You can hear the motor click as they move. Hear it click. And there they go. So they're on their way down. If we look inside let's go inside the core. You can see them coming through right here, the bottom. And we actually have water in here now. You can see the water level rising, right? Because we're filling our core vessel, also filling our outside tank. So those are doing their thing. Check our condenser level. Doing good. This guy we're going to get up to the upper part up here, because as we run this pump, it's going to draw away from it, and we like this level to be around 1800. There we go. So we see our rod height is doing its thing. Each one, as it moves down, is going to tell you. Yellow means it's in motion. This is the status of the control or motor, control motor. If that goes red, it's not working. Anyway, so let's start speeding things up a little bit. Oh, red means it is loaded, but not, well, it's unloaded. The platform is up, so it's in the upper area. It's not actually down in the core. That will be yellow when it does that. So it just means that there is something there, but it hasn't been lowered into the reactor yet. The hatch, I could open it right now. It might tell me, no, you can't because there's water. But it's in a position. This just means that the piston is up and I can open it. This is the hatch status, whether it's open or closed. So let's check our levels. We're good here. Not where we still need to go a little ways. This guy's not doing too bad. This guy's getting a little low, but we're okay. Pressurizer's fine. Let's check on our condenser. We still have a ways to go. Our water's coming up. Right. Moving up in the world. So this takes a long time. So we're going to speed things up a little bit, but we're going to keep an eye on these levels. Core coolant tank's getting a little low. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to turn this off. And notice that there's a spool down time. You can hear it. You can hear it winding down. So even though I've turned it off, you'll notice that the level continues to rise, albeit slowly. Eventually it'll stop. And this level should be rising again. Oh no, it won't until this guy shuts off all the way. So I might have needed to stop that a little earlier. Oh, yep, we ran it out. And this stopped because this stopped. And now that should go up. Perfect. This guy, he's still okay. We're going to let this one continue. Again, we want to get to 2412. And this one takes a while to spool down also. So I'm actually going to stop it at about 2300-ish. So we'll let this go a little bit longer. If you're right-clicked and you push the time change buttons, you can hear me doing it. They don't do anything. You have to let go for it to actually change. All right. Turbine finished. Hooray. The reason this dropped is because it's not reading anything inside the steam generator. That's getting a little low. So we're actually going to turn off our feed water pump. And that, again, will spool down quite a bit. So this one fills up so we don't run it dry. Our condenser, or excuse me, so our steam generator finished. We have our pump now. You can actually see them spinning, the mesh part. We'll go look at them up close here in a minute. Our condenser level, doing good. This pump doesn't draw from anywhere. It draws from Magic Land. there's no tank that it draws from. So we've actually could have filled that up as soon as our condenser, or right in the beginning, because our condenser was already here. So there's no reason not to do it now, but that we won't have to worry about as much. So we're going to watch our condenser for a minute. He's still going. Oh, now that things are installed, right? They're starting to light up. Our MSCV, we'll do the simple setup, startup instead of the one that I normally do. So we're going to leave this open. I do what's called a high pressure startup, where pressure is kind of king, and you manipulate these to increase pressure before sending it to the turbines. We're going to do the simple, easy setup. Slow it down a little bit. Go check on our numbers. This guy's pretty full, so we're going to switch this back on. This guy is not very full. And notice that the numbers don't really match. This is 16,000, and this is only 2,000, but it was drawing way more away from there. So keep that in mind also. Okay, we're going to kick it up a little bit, speed it up some. We can hear that we spun up our tank pump, and that this is dropping. That looks fine. We'll start loading that one again. Loading up the core. It's increasing. And again, 2300, we're going to shut it off. So as we get close, we're getting close. Okay, we're getting there. Perfect. Shut it off and let it spool down. We'll see where it ends up. It'll drop a little bit and then it'll fill back up. And again, here, what we're aiming, here we're going to aim for 120. There's not really a reason to draw this down unless you wanted to get into the core for some reason. Maybe to do maintenance, or I have yet to need to go into the actual core itself where we could see the fuel. So I leave this here. And if you needed to drain it, we were talking about that. You do that with this RCV valve. Just opening the valve drains it out, lowers that level, and it just spills off into this storage tank. If you needed to fill this, the recirc pump, that's the feed water pump. Let's see where we ended up. That's pretty close. We will just leave it there because it's more of a fiasco to open and close and drain it out. So we're going to let that go. We're going to let this continue filling. We're getting close to 100% there. This guy is getting close to where we wanted there. So we are getting very close to being ready to rock and roll. Actually, let's turn that off. All right. And then we're going to start our startup procedure. So temperature, right, that's just the ambient temperature, probably outside or inside. It's room temperature because there's no heat moving through. We'll see that probably throughout other places. We have pressurizer hasn't started yet. Temperature, right, 1785. Temperature over here is probably around the same. Yep, 1785. That's just the ambient temperature. This one doesn't have anything in it, so it shouldn't have any values. There's no steam, there's no anything in them. The turbines. This guy we're running out, but at this point, so we're going to turn this off. Because again, that spool down time, we're going to hit 100 and go over. It's alright. It's okay. This guy should continue filling. Wonderful. Okay, we are ready to go. We have all of the necessary coolants and things that we need. If we wanted to, we could go turn off the core valve. It's not necessary. We'll go down and do it in a minute. I don't want to take any more time, but now that we are no longer filling the core, we could shut the M3 valve off and divert everything to the coolant pool tank to fill the external. Oh no, I'm sorry. The external core is also finished, so it doesn't really matter at this point. It's going to fill up both of these tanks. We don't necessarily matter. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow. So again, this external fills up the external reservoir. Internal pump fills up this guy and this guy, so long as the valves are open. Feed water pump takes water from the primary circuit to the core vessel and the pressurizer. And the condenser pump sends it over here to the condenser, which we're getting close, not quite there yet. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spool these up to get the water in them, which I actually should have been doing. Now that I think about it, this one we're not ready to go. This guy needs a lot of coolant. So I should have been doing that. So this will take a while to go. If you're running it dry, it will tell you. You will get I think a dry warning here, and then this turns red, this number, and this light turns on. It says that it's limited because you've damaged it. The only way to fix that is with AO. We can fix conduits and some electric conduits and some pipes. AO has to fix everything else. AO can do those too, and it's usually easier and faster if he does it, but AO does everything else. So this should be starting to climb soon-ish. Is he going up? Yep, he's going up. He should be spinning up soon. I know there's water moving through it because it doesn't say dry, and it would by now. These two, yep, still climbing. Let's speed it. Oh, we are on triple. No, we're not. Now we're on triple speed. Long pipes. Long pipes. Let that keep going for a little bit. There he goes. This, just because this coolant inlet, it doesn't make anything. That's fine. So this guy we're going to let get to 50,000. It will take less time in real life than you think. But this guy's about where we want him. I'll go a little bit longer. Bypass is set to 0. Excellent. 100 here. We can start our vacuum on our condenser. We can shut off our condenser pump because it is where we want it. It'll also spool down. With triple speed, it might spool down faster. Yep, and it's dropping, right, because we are filling up this guy. Vacuum should get up to 100. As soon as it does, we can turn it off. We'll wait for him. While that's going, we can also turn on our pressurizer thermostat and heater. What that's going to do is it's going to, I'm going to slow down speed real quick so I don't overfill the secondary coolant. This is going to increase our heating power, which is going to increase our temperature. That will increase the pressurizer pressure, which will increase pressure in the vessel, which is all things we need. We need this at 150 before we can start pulling rods and heating things up, or turning on our coolant pumps. This actually doesn't have any, oh, and I forgot to do that, darn it. So we're going to let this, we're actually going to start this up. And we're going to go slowish. What I'm doing is I'm holding the button. If I hold Alt and press D, it'll turn it to 5.
Coolant has started to circulate.
Yeah, I know. Because it needs water, and we're going to see this drop. I forgot about that part. Oh, well that was... There it goes. Right, and we wanted to be at 24 and change. Is it stopped? Nope, still going. Still going. I should probably turn off this heater while I'm doing that. Because it's just cooling it off. Yep, I should have done this before and forgot because I'm not following my checklist. Whoops. Still following. It's a big system. Come back over here. Oh, we're looking for 50,000 still. Let's speed things up a little bit. This guy we can turn off. It actually filled a little bit more than we wanted to, but that's okay. And in order to turn that one off, because this turns off filling both of those. We're going to go down and shut off that valve. So again, we want to shut off the valve to the core coolant tank. And if we look, core coolant tank is M2, so we're going to shut off M2. Let me just double check this guy. He is pretty close. We'll get him to 50 first. Do triple speed. Okay, we're basically at 50. So we're going to shut this guy off, which I could have shut him off earlier because again, he's going to have that spool downtime. Okay, we're going to go turn off MO2 valve quickly. It's dark out. Nighttime. So that we can just focus on filling the other tank. Because right now with both of them open, they're both going to fill. Oh yeah, forgot to set it to automatic. There's water and equipment. Climb on up. MO2 off. And again, if you follow the pipes, you can see where they go, right? It runs through there. I guess you have to follow them quite a way. But it's the tank on that other side. And the MO3 runs at the top of this guy. Which this one's labeled. I don't know why the others aren't, but this one has a label on it. Again, go slow with this one so you don't fall in backwards and die. Jump for grunt. Usually you can run and jump. It didn't let me that time. Service. Oh, that's because I finished the day. We'll have AO. We're going to turn him on. If I try and tell him to do preventive maintenance right now, it'll say he's out of service because he's off, right? Now he's on. I'm going to have him do that so you can see what a maintenance report looks like.
Situation at the plant.
We can hear his voice. Where is he? So this ended up, whoa, quite a bit above where we wanted it. That's fine. Not ideal. And we can drain that if we wanted to through the purge valve, right? The steam generator. I believe it might be that manual one. I'm not going to worry about it right now. But I should have set that off way earlier. I forgot about the spool up. This should be done dropping. Okay, so that has stabilized. Outstanding. So now we're going to shut off these guys because we don't need them right now. Whatever it was set to previously when you turned it off, when you turn it on, it'll be there again. This we're going to flip back on our internal pump, right? Because we want this one to continue filling to about 120. And he was still filling while we had the pump off. This guy we need to bring back up, so we're going to bring our feed water pump on again, which will draw from our primary coolant tank here. So again, oh, we're already at 23, so I didn't even need to click it on that long. We're going to overshoot now by a little bit. That's fine. We'll let this quit rising. More on that in a second. Okay, it has stopped. 2359, not bad. You know what? I'm going to do it. We're going to purge it a little bit. So the RCV valve, as you move valves, let's just do a random one. The C4 valve. As I go to, in this case, close it because it's green. Notice how it's yellow. Close is yellow. It sits at yellow and this is yellow. It's because it's moving, right? The actuator is turning it and it's closing little by little. And once it's finally closed, it'll be red and this will be green, meaning it's complete, what we've asked it to do. Okay. And now that should turn green, right? Same, and so I go to off, so it's not moving anymore. I could leave it in closed, but I like leaving it off. Open does the same thing. So with that in mind, this RCV valve, which will drain the core, I don't need it all the way open. If I wait till it's all the way open and then go back and close it, I'm going to lose way more than what I wanted. So I'm going to kind of blip this on for maybe a 5 count, 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, and then flip it off. Oops, not just off to close. So I probably purged more than I wanted. So now it's going to go back and close itself, and we'll see how far it drained. None. Well, no, that's... Hold on. Did I click the wrong one? RCV valve. Oh, well... Is it because I hadn't done it yet? This should be dropping. Now I am doubting myself. There it goes. Come back, come back, come back. Shut it off. Off and close. Oh, that's right, because it was up around 60 something, right? So now I probably dropped it too far. That's all right. Okay, but you get the point of how those work. So keep that in mind. If you ever need to drain something, there is delay in everything. So it is fully closed because it's green, so we're going to switch it to off. And now we are ready to go. We'll flip our heater on. Let that heat up. It will take not very long. Let's see. Condenser is good. Again, this level's high, but I don't want to take the time to drain it out. I can purge off some of the steam later if I really wanted to. Again, there's that manual valve I can go down and drain. Right now it's not worth it, but just know next time, what did I overshoot by? So we turned it off at 50 and it went all the way to 55. So around 45, we need to shut it off. This guy should be good. Yep, 23.4. Oh no, we need 24.40. We need 24.40, not 23.40. That is too low. Sorry, everybody. Let's try this again. Feed water pump. It's not going to get up to full speed, so we're just going to kind of pulse it. Turn it off. Not 23.40, 24 is what I'm looking for. It needs to be full, but not full. And off. Oh, come on. Right back where I started. Good enough. Good enough for government work. Okay. Heater goes back on. Now we're ready to start. Goodness gracious. We have our vacuum. Vacuum pump is off. Okay. Again, I don't like it that being that high, but it is what it is. Our resistor bank. Oh, we didn't do our resistors. Oh my goodness. We must do that. That is critical. Can't believe I forgot this step. See, I have an actual written down checklist on my desk. I'm not using it. See the door open and nobody's here? Yeah, AO being creepy. There he is. There he is. He will shove you in the pool. Sometimes he jumps in the pool to try and end his own misery. I'm not joking. He will get himself wet. Okay. As I was saying, there are controls on this guy to shut it off. So we are going to bypass it so that it's unconnected. Or not connected. Whatever the right word is. Grab 4 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come over here. There is no prompt for a left mouse click, but you click it here. It opens. Inventory. Resistor. And you got to do each one. Grab another one. Close it. Open it. Inventory. One here. One here. Close it. We will turn bypass off. Don't forget. If you're going to forget, then just leave it off. There's AO. See? What's he looking at? What's he doing? Nobody knows. Staring at a wall like a cat. Grunt for echo. When you're outside running and jumping, it also echoes outside. Neat little fact. Sprint, sprint, sprint. Our pressurizer should be definitely ready to go now. I know I was trying to get a little more exact on that primary coolant level. Just don't go over 2480. That's kind of the limit. Okay. Temperature, good. Pressure, little high. 172, not a problemo. Okay, we are ready to go. So, this time I am going to, let me grab my actual checklist so I don't forget anything and mess anything else up. Operating mode, nominal.
New operating mode established.
Fuel,
Nominal mode.
load. We'll see a little animation. There's the fuel entering the core, and it flips on. Yay. If we look inside the core, we can see it down there now. Neat. Temperature should not be rising, right? Because we put our control rods in at 100. If you forget that step and you put fuel in there, hello Chernobyl. Insert fuel done. Primary pumps. We're gonna do the normal startup. So we're going to switch this on. Get the announcement that
The
it's
reactor core
circulating.
coolant has
We're going to go
started to
medium for
circulate.
50. Notice again, these take a while to move. How is our... Yeah, that guy's good. So we're going to shut him off. And while I was down there, I guess I could have closed that valve if I had been smart enough to look at it. This guy, next on our checklist is condenser. Our vacuum is good, not needed. We are going to change this to on. You hear it? Listen. That's AO. What's he doing? We're going to put this one at 50 also. This one, sometimes you get an alarm where you will dial it in and it'll give you this no power and cooling turbine, because the game says, hey, it's easy if you do it by one. So if I change this to 1 and it lags for a second, so it says, oh, there must not any power, because I'm confusing myself with this lag from going to 0 to 1, and then half a second later when it actually moves, this turns off. So don't get freaked out. It'll do it also over here for pump number 3 on the steam generator. But anyway, that's climbing up.
Maintenance report is
Okay,
complete.
maintenance report. Let's stop and do this.
You can check it from your tablet.
He will give us our maintenance report. It's truncated. Not much there. Also, don't use your mouse wheel like I'm doing, because it zooms you in and out. You have to go filter, all, except. Now we see everything. Integrity of the core, there's no wear, right? It would tell us all sorts of good information. Wear and tear. Because I was using it, there is wear and tear. I had to turn them on, right, to get water running through it. That's why there's wear and tear. Freight pumps, same thing. They were being used. Integrity, that's when there's damage. If you let the wear get to 100, damage will start. As your integrity decreases, as it goes down, you can have failure and breakage, which is not good. Some things don't have wear, like a pressurizer, it's just all integrity. Evaporators, same thing. Okay, so those things you can look through. And if something breaks, it'll tell you why. It'll say event, and it'll give you the list there. So we'll close that out, but that is useful. And now, just to show you how creepy he is, we're going to turn on AO, set up, go through, close, and he will start doing his thing. It'll say hold here in a minute when he starts doing that. Okay, back to our checklist. Condenser on. We won't touch our secondary coolant speed yet. But now we raise the rods. 96 will get it going. We'll start creating heat. We'll get this little animation, music, because it's exciting. Lights, camera action. You can see the glow of it reacting. Ooh. Intense music because the temperature's raising. See, you hear him? He's out there. It's raising very slowly. I like 95 because I'm impatient. So what's happening now is we already have our primary coolant running. This is also keeping it cooler than it normally would be. I start mine out lower. You can see my other video for my high pressure start. Makes this part a little faster. But as soon as this gets to 55, under the old reactor it was 50, but now it's 55, it'll say it reaches critical mass and it's now reactive. Even though it's showing reactivity is reactive. But anyway, and then this will turn green and these lights will stop and the music will stop. So what's happening now is we are heating here, we are taking heat from here, and we're sending it all to the steam generator. But we are not flowing our coolant yet. We want this water to heat up. We don't want to belabor the process anymore. Our condenser is running and keeping things nice and cool. It's way overdoing it. 50 is way higher than we need. But again, for this setup, that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit 3 to speed up. It'll hit 55, give us the animation. A flash, what happens in real life, but you actually couldn't see it in real life.
The
Except
reactor
in the lab.
has reached critical mass, and its
Critical.
status has changed to reactive.
Reactive. Even though it was already showing reactive. It'll continue to decline. So now that it's reached 100, our temperature should start rising. Once our temperature hits 100 here, actually we should have been doing that. As our temperature hits 100 here, we should have been watching it. This gets clicked on, our pump, and we're going to go to 25. MCV is at 100, so as steam gets generated, it's going to pass on to the turbine. Once this hits about, I think around 30 or 35, in this setup is when it starts kicking over steam. I don't remember, but we will hear the startup. And I should have been over there looking earlier. What you want is, as soon as this starts coming up, run over here and you're watching your temperature. Once the temperature hits 100 degrees and it starts generating steam, click on your secondary pump, set it to 25. You can also adjust it by holding left click. You can move your mouse button left or mouse left or right. You can also use A and D, right, to go up and down. But we want it at 25, so we're going to set it there and leave it. As we're generating steam, which is what's happening, this pressure level is going to, or this water level is going to drop. Sorry, that ding was my phone, not the game. Our steam outlet is limited. Again, doesn't matter what we have it set to, but this is twice the number of this. Freaking AO. So we won't request a startup from the city yet. And it's because this turbine takes so long to get going. Could we make it in the next hour? We'll do it just for time's sake. So once you, in theory, once this was actually spinning, actually no, we're not going to do it. We're going to wait till the next hour. Oh well, I changed my mind again. Communications, we want start operations. It'll say, okay, it'll say we have received your request. The city has, because we're saying, hey, we want to start operations and we want to send you electricity and do our job and get paid for it. They said, okay, we'll let you know. We'll confirm shortly when we give you a time. It will always give you the next hour. Oh, it just gave us our time. It's going to say 2 o'clock. If I ask this at 1:59, they will still give me 2 o'clock. If I ask it at 2:01, they will give it to me at 3 o'clock. It's whatever the next hour is, always. During this, so they expect that we will be connected to the power grid and delivering electricity, energy within the 2 o'clock hour, no later than 2:59. If I miss it, I won't get penalized, and that's okay. By 3:59, if I'm not 3:58 technically, if I'm not delivering, then I will get penalized. So we're still waiting for this to start up. Let's speed things up a bit. Our pressure is rising. Pretty soon we should start getting this going. Oh, yeah. It's just a waiting game. Turbine should start kicking over any minute. We can check our temperature. While we're waiting for this, is a good time to adjust our alarms. Actually, I'm going to do it over here so I can... Oh, you hear that? That's the turbine spinning up. Again, we're looking for 360. We are in the 2 o'clock hour, which is why this synchroscope, is spinning. If it's not spinning like that, it means you have not made the request with the city. While that's spinning up, because it's going to take a while, I'm going to adjust a couple alarms. The first is the high temp. I want this one at 385. I don't want my reactor to run away from me. 360 is ideal, or was ideal under the old reactor. The new one, you can run it about 320. Higher the temperature, the more wear and tear. Very high temperature, I want it at about 450. And that's so that I don't forget about it and just let it keep soaring. Same with, whoops, under alarms. This next one, high temperature condenser. I want it set at 85. The reason is I want to get ahead of it. If that temperature climbs and I've forgotten to adjust something, if it hits 100, remember, if it hits 100, oh, security reasons. What security reason? Okay. It says there's an alarm, but I don't see one. It says an alarm right here. Huh. That might have been because I was messing with the alarms. Going back here, I want high temperature condition to be 85 so that if there, for some reason, it gets away from me. Again, if it hits 100, it's going to stop making steam. I want to catch it before then and be able to correct it. 90 or 95 is just too close for me. I'll speed it back up. I don't see any alarms. Maybe I can acknowledge it to go away. Not sure. Okay, so again, we're getting close to that 2:59 time, right? When we're supposed to be delivering energy. Repair required. Oh, resistor banks. Forgot to turn them on. We have damaged our generator. That's what it was, but it didn't give me a warning. So all that, I forgot to turn on the resistor banks because I wasn't following my checklist. So if we have AO go do another preventative maintenance, he's going to show us that it's damaged, and we cannot repair it until we shut it down again. What this is going to do is it's going to mean we're not going to put out the voltage that we need, but that just, I guess, shows you why we got to make sure to have the resistors on. So we're getting close to that 360. As we hit about, we're going to hit speed 1 now, so we can catch it. This will start slowing as we get closer to 360, and then we fine tune it with the blue buttons like I said. Should get about 352 normally. There it is. We need to raise our PMs one at a time. I'm going to let it go a little fast till it gets closer to the top. 8. Slow it down one more. Anticipate it as it reaches the top. Hit it again. Green, green, close. And now what we'll be doing is we will take the energy we're delivering here, and 8 of it will go to the city, and we will absorb the rest of it. Ta-da! There we go. Oh, I'm shocked that my voltage, it must not be very damaged. I'm shocked that my voltage has not dropped. Usually when the turbine has damage, it will not match the voltage. So there you go. We are up, we are running, we are stable. If you look at our pressure, we are sitting comfortably. This is going to kind of level out. Same with our temperature and our steam generator level here. These are going to try to come into harmony. If you check my other video for how to stabilize this, how to get this into balance, because these numbers will not do it. And this is way too high. This I could drop to 1 by holding Alt and then A. I drop by increments of 5. I'm going to put it at 1. I said 1, not 2. 1. There we go. Because that's all I need. Because 20 is just way too cold. The closer I can get it to 100, the more efficient it'll be. But again, 90 is actually where I want it at. 90, but I don't get it that high. It's too close to 100. These numbers are coming down, and I can adjust these a bit. My core temperature, a little bit high. Again, 360 is ideal. If I right-click here, it's still trending up, so I'm going to increase this a little bit. Maybe 3 clicks. It's coming down now. Perfect. Okay, so our core is up, it's running, it's stable. We have damaged our turbine, which we can fix on our next maintenance shutdown, but here you go. If you want to try and get this down, it's a juggling act between the temperature with the control rods, the coolant system, or primary coolant pump speed, secondary coolant pump speed, and the MSCV. So all of that in another video. Check out my YouTube channel to see how to get those to work and how to move them up and down to get closer to that bus. Just know that this is too low. You will not get it. You will stall out your turbine because you can't create enough torque. But thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. And please leave comments if you have any questions, if you have any ideas or anything else you want to see. I have more content coming. Thank you so much. I am Leonidas, and have a great night.